Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Tanzania says that it wants to develop its media industry and work on media freedoms, and that it's ready to make policy changes to do so. The position is a departure from the approach of the previous administration under the late President John Magufuli. Also, Nigeria's northwest sees a spike in insecurity. Their schools have increasingly been targeted by bandits who kidnap pupils for ransom, and frustrated families are asking for help and answers. And Tunisia faces over 10,000 total deaths from COVID-19, with an average of 60 a day over the last few weeks. New restrictions that have been brought in leave many struggling to comply during the month of Ramadan. But first, Tanzania has said that it wants to work on media freedoms to develop the industry, and that it's ready to make policy and regulatory changes to do so. The position is a departure from the approach of the previous administration. Samia Suluhu, took over as president after the death of her predecessor, John Magufuli, in mid-March. Now, he was repeatedly accused of suppressing press freedoms, but Suluhu hasn't yet completely turned the page on restrictions on the media. Our regional correspondent tells us more.
Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan has made some changes since coming into office just over a month ago. Political analysts say that she has the opportunity to make changes to the constitution, institute a new electoral commission, and facilitate national reconciliation following the death of President John Magufuli. Earlier this month, President Suluhu ordered the information minister to lift a ban on media houses that were closed down after critiquing the government of her predecessor. During his tenure, journalists would often be intimidated or jailed whenever they spoke out against his rule. Activists say that while this move is in the right direction for Tanzanian civil liberties and the media, all hampered under Magufuli, the government needs to commit to practical changes.
You may know the newspapers that have been shut down in Tanzania for years. Some of them have gone to court and challenged those shutdowns, won court cases, but still not been allowed back to the streets. So what does this mean for those outlets? We want to see more inclusive commitment to lift all bans on all media outlets.
Hassan inherited a legacy fraught with controversy, including COVID-19 denialism. Analysts say that her success in the next 5 years will depend on how she is able to consolidate power in government and within the ruling CCM party. So even though she is a senior official in the party, Suluhu does not have a political power base. She is also Zanzibari at a time when the union between Tanzania's mainland and the Indian Ocean archipelago of Zanzibar is under strain. However, within weeks of coming into power, Suluhu has distanced herself from some of Magufuli's decisions, including those on private sector engagement, COVID-19, and human rights. And even though all this looks as if it could take Tanzania back onto the path of democracy, she still faces opposition within the ruling CCM party and the government, with various actors trying to influence her policies.
Mukawa Shachwayu there for us. Now, 2 police officers have been killed by gunmen in the southern Nigerian state of Akwa Ibom. The officers were ambushed on their way home. The southeast has seen a surge in attacks on security forces. Dozens of personnel have been killed and police stations torched. Now, the northwest has also seen a spike in insecurity. There, schools have increasingly been targeted by bandits who kidnap pupils for ransom. Hundreds have been abducted since December. 5, taken last week from Greenfield University in Kaduna State, have been killed. Their families are demanding answers.
Linda Peter's daughter was kidnapped in March from a college in the northwestern Nigerian state of Kaduna. She's attending a meeting of parents whose children have also been abducted. The governor has said he will not negotiate with gangs that ask for ransoms, and Linda Peter is distraught.
I thought the security would stand up to help us, because some people, they will kidnap them, they will not reach 3 weeks or 2 days. They will go and bring them out because they have the money they demand, but we don't have anything.
Many parents are extremely worried because 5 students who were kidnapped last week at Greenfield University, also in Kaduna State, have been killed. The father of one of these students spoke at his daughter's funeral.
Government should be more proactive to help the situation. Government should be proactive. They should not just keep quiet. They should be proactive to help the situation because it's getting out of hand.
Since December, more than 700 students have been abducted in Nigeria. 6 northern states have shut public schools to prevent further attacks. The United Nations estimates that the studies of more than 5 million children have been disrupted.
Now, Chad's army continued fighting rebels not far from the front line when late President Idris Deby was fatally wounded earlier this month. Battling continued on Thursday near Noku. Militia claimed to have taken control of the town, but the Transitional Military Council that took over in the wake of Deby's death says that it's still in the hands of government forces. Now, the military takeover has sparked a crisis. African Union representatives arrived in the country on Thursday to help look at ways to hasten the return of democratic governance to the country. And Kenya's told the UN that it will shut some of the world's biggest refugee camps by June 2022. The announcement came a little over a month after the Interior Ministry ordered Dadaab and Kakuma camps shut and gave the United Nations just 2 weeks to come up with a plan to do so. Now, earlier this month, a Kenyan court ruled against their closure, but on Thursday, President Uhuru Kenyatta and the head of the UN's refugee agency met to discuss shutting the camps down. Now, Nairobi's been trying to close the sites, which between them hold over 430,000 refugees since 2016, citing security concerns over infiltration by Somali extremists. Tunisia is facing over 10,000 total deaths from COVID-19, with an average of 60 a day over the last few weeks. New restrictions have been brought in, but many are finding them difficult to manage in the middle of the month of Ramadan. Our team reports.
In this hospital in Sousse, in the east of the country, there are more and more patients every day. Dr. Riyad Boukef is the head of emergency services and also manages this COVID ward.
Latif, ça va, elle est stable pour l'instant. Les malades sont devenus plus graves et plus nombreux et plus jeunes.
Like in other hospitals, the doctor has to choose between young and old patients, as the country only has a few hundred ICU beds.
On fait un choix, certes, vu le nombre réduit de lits, mais c'est très tendu pour notre personnel et c'est très tendu du point de vue physique et surtout aussi moral.
A year ago, this ward was built in just 15 days using donation funds. At the time, it hosted few patients since the country had managed to keep case numbers low. But today, it's at full capacity.
Ici, on va, encore une fois, grâce aux donateurs, on va construire une nacelle avec une pente pour transférer plus facilement les patients.
Authorities launched a vaccination campaign mid-March. They expect to inoculate 3 million Tunisians by the end of June. 66-year-old Jamila came to this center with her daughter-in-law.
أنا خذيت الرونديفو بالSMS وهذا لو بريمي فاكسان باش نعملوا اليوم خاطر لازم باش نحميو روحنا من الفيروس هذيا.
While Jamila is convinced, others are more skeptical. This center has the capacity to vaccinate 1,200 people per day, but on average only 800 show up.
Il y a encore un peu de méfiance, il faut le dire. Et on travaille là-dessus pour convaincre tous les Tunisiens de s'inscrire sur la plateforme.
About 1 million Tunisians have registered so far using the online platform, and about 2% of the population have received their first shots.
Well, people in Burkina Faso are starting to feel the heat as summer gets into full swing. Keeping cool is a major challenge because of frequent power cuts across the country. The government's ramped up investment in solar energy, but it's still not enough, as our team reports.
April in Burkina Faso is the hottest time of the year. Temperatures can rise to a sticky and uncomfortable 45 degrees Celsius. Many struggle in the heat, particularly when there's no electricity. This morning, Aminata has seen the power to her restaurant go out several times already.
Le courant s'est coupé 3 fois. Là, on met ça là. Ça fait 3 jours aujourd'hui. Ce n'est pas formé, c'est frais seulement.
Quand il y a coupure de courant, on n'arrive pas à vendre de la glace et la facture vient chère.
The outage has hit the whole town. Nowadays, power cuts usually last around an hour, which is a slight improvement from 2 years ago.
Ça va bientôt 2 mois comme ça. À partir de 11h jusqu'à 15h, il y a coupure de courant.
L'année passée, ou peut-être 2 ans de cela, c'était vraiment de longues coupures, quelque chose qui partait peut-être autour de 2 heures, 3 heures de temps. Mais cette année, depuis que ça a commencé, en tout cas, ça ne dépasse pas 1 heure de temps.
The government's increasingly turning to renewable energy. Around 130,000 panels shimmer in the sun at this huge solar power plant in Zaktuli, about 20 kilometres from Ouagadougou. Opened in 2017 during French President Emmanuel Macron's visit, the plant was meant to help Burkina Faso become energy self-sufficient. But today, 65% of the country's electricity still comes from neighbouring Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. The government says that this energy dependency is partly to blame for the frequent power cuts.
Quand il y a une coupure au Ghana, nous sommes délestés de pratiquement 120 mégawatts. Dès qu'il y a un problème technique, nous envoyons des équipes sur place rapidement. Mais nous sommes conscients qu'il y a encore beaucoup à faire. Dans les années à venir, et déjà avec les investissements que nous avons, le Burkina Faso sera complètement autonome avec de l'énergie solaire.
The number of Burkinabés with access to electricity increased from 18 to 45% between 2015 and 2020, mostly in cities and urban communities.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, and do so again if you can. Take care.